parable of the Good Samaritan. Stop, stop, and stop. First of all, we have to be careful because this is what is known as a domesticated text. What does that mean? If you go to church, like I've been going to church my entire life, yeah, we've heard this story about 10 million times, right? We know this story backwards and forwards, but you have to be careful because sometimes knowing the story too well prevents you from seeing what the story is really about. So clean out your brain and let's approach this with a fresh mind, right? So here we go. Well, first of all, this takes place after Luke chapter 9, which is Jesus sets his face to go toward Jerusalem. So what does that mean? Take out your maps. Here's the map set. What does this mean? It's the size of the state of New Jersey, 150 miles. Up here in the north, Galilee, that's where Jesus lives, Jesus of Nazareth. Down here is Jerusalem. How do you get there? You just walk. You go this way, 75 miles straight through what? Samaria in the middle. Samaria. Without doing a 3-hour lecture, read your second book of Kings. The people who live in Samaria are weird. The 10 tribes were removed by the Assyrians, Nazis of the 8th century BC, and they were replaced with people from the other end of the known world, and they intermarried among the poorest of the poor people that were left behind. So these are, half-breed people here, okay? So these Samaritans, they have the Torah only. They believe in God. They believe that you worship God at Mount Gerizim, not Mount Zion in Jerusalem. And the Jews of the tribe of Judah hate these people for, what, a year? No, 700 years. 700 years of we hate these people. And they're like the Dali people in India. What does that mean? The ground itself is considered contaminated. Jews don't go there. You can't eat the food. There's no kosher food there. You can't drink out of the well. You can't even walk. It's like a dead zone. They hate these people. Okay? Now, that in mind, let's take a look at this parable because it's rather delicious in my opinion. All right. So he's on his way to Jerusalem. And so do you know the exact location? No, other than he's on the road. And as he's on the road, he gets approached by a lawyer. Stop. I don't know about you, but I love cable TV. I have cable TV, and I have all 900 channels with nothing on, right? But there's a channel in New Jersey that shows Perry Mason reruns. Fantastic. Oh. Fantastic. I love that show. Hamilton Berger, he's pompous. He thinks he's got it all right, and Perry smacks him down at the end, and you're like, this is a great thing. And what's great about Perry Mason? He's a lawyer who has a strong sense of justice. Most of the lawyers we know, they just want to get money, and they'll make any argument at any time, at any place, just to get money. Perry Mason has a strong sense of justice. And I love it how the bad guys are exposed at the end. They always have some emotional confession. I did it, I did it, I did it. Perry Mason breaks them every time. So I have a great love and admiration for lawyers like this, right? Is that what we're talking about here? No. When you say a lawyer in the New Testament, remember, how do you think of Islam? It's an economic, a political, and a religious system all in one ball, like this. Not like us. We do separation of church and state. So we put the church over here, and we put the state over here. We don't really talk about the two. So there's civil law, like Perry Mason stuff, and then there's religious law. So the Catholic Church has canon law. You want to get a divorce, you have to go, have it annulled and all that kind of stuff. That's canon law. In the New Testament, it's like Islam. The Jewish religious law is the economic law. It's the political law, and it's the religious law, all in one ball. So if you say you're a lawyer in the New Testament, don't think of Perry Mason. Of course, I think of Perry Mason no matter what, but don't think of Perry Mason. It's a lawyer who's like an expert on the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, how to apply it to your life. Now, do we like lawyers? Well, not really, but in the ancient world they did. They liked lawyers because you can't read, right? You're a Jewish peasant, you can't read, and you have some dispute, like what do we do about this? Or you spill milk on the meat plate. What do you do? So you'd go to a lawyer, the wise man in town, who knows the Torah, and they would say, well, look, here's how you apply this situation. This is how you do it. In other words, people like that. It helps. It clarifies, helps you be a better person. Okay? So this lawyer then, he stands up. Okay? Why is he standing up? Everybody else is sitting down, so he's standing up like a press conference. And he's going to test Jesus. Now, see that word test? What is it? It's more than just, I have a pop quiz for you today, students, or I have your final exam. No, it's this lawyer is trying to cause Jesus to lose face. Remember, in the Orient, losing face is a worst case scenario, right? Do we have problems with China right now? We're negotiating. Why? They can't lose face. That's the worst thing that can happen to you in the Oriental world. So this lawyer is trying to cause Jesus to lose face. Because if Jesus is stumped and can't answer the question in the right way, or he gives some incriminating evidence, right, then his followers, his crowd of disciples and apostles, are going to leave him and he's going to be alone. That's the goal here. Is the lawyer seeking truth? No, he's not like Perry Mason trying to solve the case with truth. He's trying to trip up Jesus and cause him to be embarrassed. Okay? That's important. Because when we get to Jesus' snarky answer, you're going to go, well, that's not a very nice thing to say, Jesus. You're hurting my feelings here. Okay? So he says, teacher. Isn't that interesting? Why does he call him teacher? I have a feeling that this is a snarkism. He's being ironic here. Because they know who Jesus is. He's from Nazareth, a small town that nobody's ever heard of before. And he's a blue-collar working stiff dude. But yet he's going around teaching people the Torah. How do you get to be a lawyer? We have to go to like law school. You have to study with a rabbi and be an expert of the Torah. You can't just stand up and go, well, I'm an expert and let me tell you. No. So he's mocking Jesus by calling him a teacher. He says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Now, what's the answer to this question? There are certain questions, like when you go to a family reunion, if you say a couple of questions like this, there'll be like a fist fight that will break out. They'll have to call in a SWAT team to break you up. That's one of these questions. It wasn't quite settled in the Jewish world what eternal life is. Right? It's a very interesting thing. To make a long story short, in the Jewish world, eternal life is achieved by your ancestors keeping your name alive. So if you go to a cemetery and the people put like a stone on a tombstone, it means you remembered the person's name and you put a stone on their grave to remember them. So it goes from there all the way up to heaven and resurrection and that sort of thing. But it wasn't a settled question, in other words. It's an open question, right? So what is the lawyer trying to do? He's trying to throw a hand grenade in the middle of the crowd and have everybody be all arguing and fistfights breaking out. That's what he's up to. Well, he says to him, what is written in the law? So Jesus responds to the lawyer's question with another question. You got that? This is a delicious thing, right? So people that question you maybe respond by a question, where are you coming from here? Okay? So he says, what is written in the Torah? Right? Does the lawyer know what's written in the Torah? Yeah. He's an expert in the Torah. He can read and write the Torah. He probably has it memorized. Okay? So what's written in the Torah? What do you read there? How do you read it? Okay? What do lawyers do? Lawyers dispute and argue about the law, the Constitution. What is a law? What is not a law? How do you interpret the law? Right? So he's saying to the lawyer, well, how do you read it? What's your spin on it? Is that a good question? When people ask you a question, before you start pontificating with the correct answer, which I know you have, you want to maybe ask the person a couple of questions, find out where they're coming from. When people ask me religious questions, they always come up to me, they find out I'm a minister. Usually I tell them I'm not, so I don't have to deal with them, right? No, I'm not, no. So they ask me some religious question. And they're coming and they ask you some question, and I always start out by finding out who they are and where they're coming from. A lot of times they used to go to the Catholic Church and the nun hit them with a ruler in 1961. Therefore, they have like a chip on their shoulder, and they think that because I'm Lutheran, that means I'm Catholic because everybody's the same. So they don't make subtle. So you find out, well, I'm Catholic and this happened, or I used to go to a Missouri Synod Lutheran school, or I used to be a Methodist or something. It helps to understand where they're coming from so you can give an answer that they will understand. Okay? So you don't just answer him with some slogan that you learned somewhere. Okay? So Jesus, he wants to find out, how do you read it? Right? And the lawyer answers this. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Now, you know what? That's really good. No, that's really good, right? Do you ever hear of the Shema before? Of course not. Okay, what is the Shema? It's in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And it's the creed, or it's like the Apostles' Creed for Jews. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. Okay? So that's like their slogan or their motto. So he says here what? That love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul. Okay, 4. Count to 4. Your heart, cardiac, right? Soul, psyche. Okay? Psyche, so it's heart, soul, all your strength, physical strength, that's physics, and your mind. You know what? That's a pretty good thing, isn't it? 4 points, right? And you love your neighbor as yourself. Now, what's this? This is a cross, right? What is true religion? True religion is you love God this way, you love your neighbor this way. It's shaped like a cross. Do people have a hard time with this? Yeah. A classic example is Islam, right? Militant Islam people. Do they love God? Yeah, they do. They love God this way, right? How much do they love God? They love God so much that they blow up people that they don't happen to agree with. That's probably not a good religion, right? If your religion involves killing your neighbors because they don't happen to agree with every point of your orthodoxy, that's probably a problem, okay? So you have to do both at the same time. Both at the same time? You mean like walk and chew gum? Yeah, that's what it is, right? It's a dynamic tension. Love God, love your neighbor. That's a really good, so what is religion? That's a really good definition of what you should be doing, right? In fact, what does Jesus say? You have given the right answer. So Jesus then is putting his stamp of approval on the man's answer, okay? Now, notice this. The lawyer comes to Jesus to cause him to lose face. He thinks he knows more than Jesus knows. And what happened? Jesus goes, he flipped it on him. Jesus ends up saying, yes, scholar, you're correct. In other words, Jesus achieves victory over the lawyer. See that? Very important point. Then he says, do that and you're going to live. Right? Now, I don't understand it. It's a complex philosophical concept. Okay, that's why it's good you came to church today. So, Jesus does parables. Parables, earthly stories with heavenly meaning. Oh, I wish you'd stop saying that, Pastor Mark. You've been saying it for years. I have blood trickling out of my ears. Well, you need to know this when you read the Bible to know what you're looking at. Is it a poem? Is it a wisdom literature? What is it? This is a parable. So that means put on your parable hat. Earthly story, heavenly meaning. Is this a true story?
Yes.
No. It's a parable, right? It's like an illustration or an example. So you can't say like, oh, let's go interview the man who was the victim here. No, he's telling you a story. Is it plausible? Yes, it could have happened, okay? But again, don't get bogged down on, is it a true story? Let's go do an archaeological dig or something and find the spot where it happened. No, it's a plausible. He's trying to make a point here. And remember, parables have how many points? 1. It's like a joke with a punchline. So we're going to see what the punchline is when we get to the end. So this is the literary format. So here we go. The lawyer wanted to justify himself. What does that mean when the lawyer says he wants to justify himself? He just got bested by Jesus. The answer is correct. So the lawyer wants to prove that he's smarter than Jesus. So he's trying to redeem it's like a contest with the crowd, like a debate point. So he thinks he can now score a point, right? So I'm going to hit Jesus with a question that he can't answer. So he says to Jesus, who is my neighbor? What's the point of this parable? To help you understand who your neighbor is. Okay? So instead of a philosophical lecture like we had above, we're getting a very practical thing that's easy for us to understand. That's why parables are so brilliant. Is Jesus a great teacher? Greatest teacher who ever lived, because he taught using parables like this. And you're sucked into the story, right? Like you can visualize yourself being part of the story. That's what it's for. Okay, who's my neighbor? Well, Jesus replies. He says this, okay? There's a man. What's his name? Amen. That's his name. Is that important? Parables typically don't have people's names in them. Why? Who's the man?
Anybody.
It could be you. It could be you, right? Bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to us all the time. Sometimes you get in a bad situation. This could be you, right? You could be living in New Orleans right now, whether they're getting 20 inches of rain or whatever. That could be you, right? So the man, he's going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Stop. Oh, I guess we have to look at the maps here, don't we? Yeah, we do. Here's the maps, okay? Now, Jesus lives up here. Samaria's in the middle. Down here's Jerusalem. Jerusalem, all right, here's Jerusalem. Jerusalem is about 2,800 feet above sea level. The Dead Sea is 1,400 feet below sea level. And it's about 20 miles from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. Jericho is a city that's about 380 feet below sea level. You go there, if you have money, you go there in the wintertime because it's cold up here in the hills, and you go down there, it's nice. It's like Florida or something. And it's about 20 miles down the hill. So you're above sea level, then you go down, 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 and then you go, there's a marker on the highway, Nancy. Do you stop there?
I think we did.
There's a marker that says sea level, about halfway between Jerusalem and the Dead Sea. And you're like, that's a really strange thing. And you keep going down from there, down from there. So he's going downhill, right? So he's going down. Now, what's out there? What's out there between Jerusalem and Jericho? Nothing. It's like wilderness. It looks sort of like Arizona without the cactus or something. Right? There's nothing out there. Now, if you heard this story 2,000 years ago, you would say, moron, it serves him right. The man, a man, does it say a group of men? It says a man. And what's he doing? He's walking from Jerusalem to Jericho. Do you know how stupid that is? It would be like, let's go to East New York and shovel several $1,000s into your pocket so they can see it, and just go walking around about 2 o'clock in the morning. What's going to happen to you? You're going to get what you deserve. Anybody who's stupid enough to do that? Again, how do you travel in the ancient world? You go with your crew. You take along, some young dudes that are good at fighting, 20, 30 people, and you go, the whole caravan kind of goes through the desert together. You don't go out there by yourself. Amen. Traveling alone. You don't do this, right? So he's traveling, he's going down in this desolate road, and what happens? Shocker. He falls into the hands of robbers. And are these nice people? Here's what they do. First of all, they beat you. Then they take all your clothes. Now, is that a bad thing? Oh no, it's good to be naked in the desert, where it's 100 degrees of the sun shining, and then it gets about 40 degrees at night. What do you call people who are left out naked in the wilderness like this? Dead. If the beating doesn't kill you, being left out in the desert with no clothes, you have to have the right clothes to survive, or you're dead. They didn't kill you right out, they're going to kill you the slow way. And they beat them. What does that mean? A bloody mess, right? One of the things that, it's boring here out in the country, so sometimes we watch TV at night, and, I like to watch these shows about emergency rooms, where they show how the EMS people come in. They're incredible, these people. They come in, they take care of people, they rush into the emergency room, people that would have died, 10 years ago are now living because of this, right? They're heroic people, right? So this guy is a mess, beaten up, right? Left there, naked, laying in the wilderness. How bad was he? He was so bad that he was like knocked out. He couldn't even get up to help himself. So he's like, you know, and he's stripped, he's beaten, and they left him, half dead. What does half dead mean? Yeah. This is why we keep Cliff around to help me on this stuff. No, here's Cliff. Here's what it means. If you watch these EMS people, they roll up on somebody, right? Well, if they don't receive immediate care, the golden hour, you know, they're going to die. They might even die on the way to the hospital, right? So while they're being transported, sometimes people die if they're traumatized in a heinous way. Half dead. Okay? Is that important? Yeah, it's sort of important for the story. Okay, so, by chance, right? I love that one. Why that? Because you're in the middle of nowhere, people don't go there. Right? By chance, a priest happened to be going down the road. Stop. We're Protestants. You know what that means? Oh, we hate those Catholic priests. It's a Catholic priest that did this. I'm sure it is. No, that's not what it means. A priest in the Old Testament means there are several thousand of them, and they work in the temple. And what does a priest do in the Old Testament? A priest is one who sacrifices animals, and they place the blood on the altar to atone for the sins of the people. So basically, a priest is like the local butcher, except they do it for religious reasons. And you buy the meat at the temple, all this sort of thing. So, and they're religious people, right? Now, this priest happens to be coming along. Maybe he lives in Jericho. He's been in Jerusalem for a month or so. Now he's on the way home. Okay? So, the priest comes along, and he sees the man, a man who's laying there. Does he have the man laying there? What is he wearing? Why is that important? Well, in the ancient world, I saw this when I went to India, right? My friend Dr. Paul Rajan, they have a caste system there. They're not supposed to have it. It's outlawed by the Constitution. They have it anyway. Indian people can tell by looking at a person what caste they're in by their clothing. I can't tell. They all look the same to me. I can't tell the difference. But they know by looking at the person's clothes. In the ancient world, your outfit identifies who you are. If you don't have any clothes on, how do we know who this person is? Is it a Jew? Is it a Greek? Is it a Roman? Is it one of my family members? Who knows who this person is? We don't know who this person is. In other words, they don't have their New York State ID on them. Right? We don't know who they are. Okay? So the man's laying there, right? And a priest comes by, and what does he do? He sees the man, he assesses the situation, and he passes by on the other side. What did he do? He passed by on the other side. Why did he do that? Oh, because he's Catholic priest and Catholics are terrible. Is that what it is? No. He did this because he's a priest from the Old Testament days. What's he been doing? He's been working in the temple in Jerusalem. What does that mean? You can't just go walking in and go, okay, I'm a priest, I'm reporting for duty. You have to go through an elaborate ritual purification ceremony. Like ritual baths, cleansing, this sort of thing. About 2 weeks worth of ritual purifications in order to go into the temple. In other words, you have to be like, detoxed or something before you go into the temple to work. Right? Do we think this is ridiculous? What a stupid thing. What do we get? No. Holy, profane. You can't go from the profane world into the holy world unless you're bodily prepared. About 2 weeks. How many of you can afford to take 2 weeks off and to go to some kind of a spa somewhere and, be treated and be all purified and be ready to go, and then you can come back and do your job? That costs a lot of money and a lot of time. Well, that's where this guy's been. In other words, he's been up at the temple in Jerusalem doing the detox thing. He's all set to go now. And he's on his way home. Why does he go to the other side? Because there's a taboo. There's a prohibition. You're a priest. Are you allowed to touch bloody people, dead people, half-dead people, people that might die on the way to the hospital? No, you're not. Who handles dead people in the New Testament days? It's women's work. Honestly, it's women's work. Men don't do it, and priests really don't deal with people like this. Dead man's bones is the ultimate taboo, the ultimate impurity. Blood all over the place. And remember, in the ancient world, life is in the blood. So they sacrifice the animals, they collect the blood, they put the blood. So the blood is like a mysterious religious thing. So the priest, it isn't that he's just a horrible human or we hate, the religion or whatever. No, he passes to the other side because he's a religious man and that's not his job to touch bloody dead people. You see? And then what happens then? Then a Levite comes along of the tribe of Levi. Right? A Levite, you have to be a Levite in order to be a priest. Okay? You can't say, well, Robert's been thinking, he wants to become a priest now. So you can't. You have to be of the tribe of Levi to be a priest in the Old Testament days. And he comes, he came to the place, he saw him, and he passed to the other side. What's he thinking? There's a dead guy laying there. Do I want to be like that dead guy, that bloody mess guy? This is a dangerous area here. I'm going to avoid coming here from now on. You see? And he had his religious, he'd have to go through the purification all over again. Okay? Now, here we go. Here's the kicker part of the story. But a good religious Israelite came along. Is that what it says? What does it say? But a Samaritan, oh no, a Samaritan? You mean the people that we hate for 700 years? Yeah, those people. When Jesus told this story, I have a question, Pastor Mark. Why would they kill Jesus? He was such a nice man. Because he told nasty stories like this. What does it do? It takes your high opinion of yourself and your nation and your religion and rips the guts out of it and he hands it back to you on a silver platter. Oh, he hurt my feelings. I'm a snowflake. I'm going to melt now. Yeah, that's what Jesus did. He lets them have it with both barrels here. The most hated people for the Jews in the Jesus day are the Samaritans who live over here. They hate these people, right? Irrational hatred, right? So a Samaritan's traveling along, and what does he do? He walks on the other side. Now, he comes near him. See, there's like a taboo zone. So instead of going this way to keep a safe distance away, he comes near the man. He's coming near him, right? And when he sees him, the man laying there, he says, let me see if you're part of my family, clan, and tribe. No, he doesn't. He has pity and compassion on the man. Notice he doesn't say, what's your nationality? What's your religion? What's your tribe? No, he sees the human condition. What's the human condition? We're all messed up. We're all broken. We're all half dead. We're all anonymous by the side of the road. He sees that man and has pity on him. Does he say, I know, if I help him, maybe I'll get a big reward. If I help him, maybe he can do something to benefit my business or something. No, he doesn't. There's no quid pro quo here. He's doing the right thing. What is the right thing anyway? You do the right thing regardless if there's a payoff or not. Find somebody's wallet laying in the street, you give it back to them. What's the golden rule? I don't know. Do unto others if others do unto you. You lose your wallet, do you want your wallet back? You know what it is to lose your wallet? Forget the money in your wallet. Most of us don't have any money because we always use ATM cards, right? But we have credit cards, IDs, all kinds of... To call up all those people and to have all the credit cards stopped and reissued, it's like, 2 weeks worth of work. Giving back somebody's wallet and they're grateful. You just do the right thing. You never get in trouble for doing the right thing. Well, that's what the Samaritan does, right? The Samaritan, the one we hate, yeah, he did it. He's moved the pity. He goes up to the man, and what does he do? He went to the man. He bandages his wounds, and he pours oil and wine on it. Stop. What's that? They don't have antibiotics in those days. So how do you treat wounds? Olive oil is an unbelievable stuff. You cook with it, you make lamps out of it. It has healing properties. You put oil on it and it helps wounds heal. We would say some kind of a triple antibiotic ointment. You put that on there, And what's the wine for? They didn't know wine has alcohol in it, and alcohol cleans out the goodies, the germs, so the wounds don't get infected. So believe it or not, that's a pretty good medical treatment here, you know, considering they don't have, you know, pre-scientific revolution. So he puts, and how much is olive oil and wine? Yeah, that's kind of expensive. In other words, he's dropping a little money on this guy, which is kind of neat, right? And he bandages his wounds, and he puts him on his own animal. And typically on the cover of the bulletin, we have like a donkey with the guy all sprawled out on him like this. Well, what does that mean? He puts him on his own animal. Why didn't the priest of the Levite put the man on their animal and take him home? Well, because you get blood all over the place. If the guy dies along the way, that means the animal is contaminated. You're gonna lose a nice, valuable donkey just because some guy was stupid enough to die on the donkey on the way to being treated. See how that works, right? So he puts him on his own animal, and obviously the man must have been severely injured. So he was so severely injured he had to be taken by an ambulance to the inn. What's an inn? Along the road, there are inns where you stay, and typically you want to get into the inn before sundown because at night in the wilderness it's really bad out there. Bad enough in the day, right? And he took care of the guy, you know, for a little while to get his strength back. The next day he takes out 2 denarii. What's that? A denarii is average day's pay for a worker, 1 denarii. So if you make $100 a day, he gives him $200, right? And that's a lot of money in those days. He gives it to the innkeeper and he says, take care of this man, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever you spend. In other words, here's my credit card, and anything he needs, you take care of him. I don't know about you. I mean, I like Jim Rapoli and everything, but I'm not going to say, here's my credit card, put whatever you want on the hospital bill. No, I'm not going to do this. The Samaritan, this is a great guy. I mean, think about that for a minute. He doesn't know this man. I mean, what a neat thing. I mean, you got to imagine, it's an amazing story, okay? And he says, take care of him and I'll take care of him. Now, what was the point of that story? It's just a pointless, rambling story that Jesus told that has no purpose or meaning. No, it does. It's the punchline for the parable. Remember, parables have one punchline. Jesus says to the lawyer, which of these 3, okay, stop. My CIA kids, I don't give them essay tests because they hold their pens like this and they can't read the handwriting because they don't teach cursive anymore because that would stifle the development of children, right? So I can't read their handwriting. So they always say to me, do we have a multiple choice test? They like multiple choice tests because that way they have a 25% chance of guessing the right answer so they don't have to read the book, right? So I say to them, do I look like a loser to you? Do I look like a slacker? Do I look like a bum, a whiner? No, there's no multiple choice, right? I make them memorize it and write the answer in, even if I can't read their handwriting, right? Like a short answer, you have to know your stuff that way. So Jesus gives them a multiple choice, right? Which one is it? A, the priest, B, the Levite, or C, the Samaritan, or D, none of the above, right? So they have to guess which one it is. Now, which of these 3, now I love the way Jesus frames the argument. Can you say, oh, it's the guy from Iowa? No, the guy from Iowa is not in the story. You have to pick A, B, or C. Now, which of these 3 do you think is the neighbor for the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? Even if you didn't hear the end of the story, what are you doing in your mind right now? When is this guy going to shut up? He keeps talking, he's talking, and blah, 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 right? No, you are drawn into the story, right? You have to use your head. It's called a eureka moment, right? It's like, who is the neighbor? Who's the neighbor? I guess I have to retell the story. A is the priest, B is the Levite, and C is the Samaritan. Yeah. You see, you answered the question, and rather than having Jesus go, love your neighbor as you love God. Okay, that's good. He gives you a story where you figure out the answer, right? This is brilliant, okay? So which is the neighbor, right? And the lawyer said, ready? I love this answer. Ready? The one who showed him mercy. Now, does that answer tell you something that is rather delicious? Yeah, it does. Yeah, what is it? Say the word. Say the word. I can't say it. Samaritan. He can't say the word Samaritan. So instead, he uses a euphemism or a replacement, the generic the one. Got that? Why? Because the lawyer is a good Israelite. He's a faithful student of the Torah, the oral and the written tradition. The oral tradition among us is that we hate those people, those Samaritans, for 700 years. I hate them so much, I'm not even going to say the name. And if I say the name, that's going to mean that, what? You're right and I'm wrong and I lose face. For the second time in about 5 minutes. You see how that works? The one who showed him mercy. And what does Jesus say? Go and do likewise. Don't sit around and go, well, let's have a theoretical discussion about the morals and ethics. No. Time for talk is over. Go do it. Get out and do it. Right? Now, do you know the right thing to do? Yeah? Well, then why don't we do it? Isn't that interesting? Like, we know about this stuff. Everyone talks about, oh, the Good Samaritan. We like him so much, we're going to name a hospital after him in Long Island. The Good Samaritan. There's a statue of him in the front. Oh, we just love the Good Samaritan, right? Well,
It's a statue.
if you know the story, then why don't we do it? Right? We have the same reasons that the Levite and the priest would say, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to have to fill out the forms. I don't want to risk a lawsuit. I could be sued if the guy dies in my car or something. I don't want to touch the person. No. We'll leave it to the EMS people. You see that? I mean, I'm glad we have EMS people. I hold them in high regard. They're wonderful people. But you know what? There's a place and a role for you sometimes to step in and do the right thing. Sometimes the EMS people or the police aren't around. Do the right thing. Right? Go and do likewise. So what is the religion all about? Love God and love your neighbor. Dynamic tension. That's a hard thing to do. So this is the parable of the Good Samaritan. And, this is the first of several parables we're going to be talking about in the Gospel of Luke this summer. So stay tuned and keep coming. Amen.
The congregation